Okay, after looking at the weather report for tomorrow, it's going to be snowing and blowing and cold, and I don't really want to be outside all day cooking the turkey, so I want to get a little head start here today. And I already got the meat pretty much thawed out here. A couple pieces that aren't, but it'll all get thawed pretty soon. I got the Dutch oven ready. I had some bacon left over from the steak rolls yesterday, and I just rubbed it into the side real good, pushed it in, and I'm going to put that on the very bottom. Now I'm going to cut some onions up, put them in there, then lay the thighs and drumsticks in first, and put the chicken breast on top of that. Put a little bit of broth in there, and then put it on the slow simmer. Okay, I lined the bottom of the Dutch oven with onions and some apples. That bacon's on the very bottom underneath everything. And then, of course, I got the sides greased really well too. And I got one little strip left over here, and I'm gonna probably grease the top just a little bit too. So what I'm gonna do is, I got the heart, the gizzard, and the liver all chopped up in little pieces. That's gonna get thrown down next. And then the thighs are gonna go in here, and then the chicken breasts are gonna go on top of that. Then we're gonna put a little broth on it. And I'll wait for the coals to drop down a little bit and try and find a cool spot on the fire and get it to start simmering. Okay. As you can see, this 12-inch 5 quart's just perfect. The more full it is, the better it is, because it keeps that heat even and the cast iron just radiates into it. So I got about another half hour. Let me see how those coals are doing. They got a little bit to go. The fire's still going pretty good. So maybe half hour, 30, 40 minutes, something like that. Well, that fire sure feels good. It's pretty cold today. Not as cold as yesterday. At least the sun's out. My wife's inside making up some batter for some cornbread muffins. So we're going to make a couple trays of them in the skillet on this the more shallow pit. And then we're just going to put the grate over the deeper one, and if we have to, we'll drop a trivet in there to get the heat to keep this thing going. But I'm probably just going to keep adding little chunks of wood for about an hour, because that's about how long it takes to cook this thing like this. Okay, I was really trying to get this thing all dried in, as they say, by Thanksgiving, and well, if I had 2 days I could do it, but oh well, I got pretty close. There's plenty of nice weather here in the wintertime, but I really want to get this thing under cover, but that's the way it works sometimes. I've been working on this thing for almost 3 years, but I've done everything by myself. So I'll show you something from the inside. That's the loft up there, and you can see I've got a little shed roof dormer up there I've got framed. I just have to go over to the sawmill because they ran out of ponderosa, and I've got everything else sheathed in ponderosa so far, so I didn't want to change. So I've just been waiting for them to come up with some, and I found some stuff that had been laying around for a while. It was really dry. It's 2x, but yeah, it's a little thicker than I wanted, but at least it's going to match up with what I've got in here. All these logs are lodgepole pine, all the rafters and main beams. This is all stuff that I timbered up north where we used to live, about 9,500 feet. Some of these trees, like for example, this one right here, it's probably close to 200 years old. You start counting the growth rings on these things, they grow really slow up there, up that high. It's a super straight tree. And the logs are, well, I put a coat of paraffin oil on, well, 2 coats of paraffin oil on everything. It's a Brazilian rosewood oil. And these are all transoms over here. And then, let me walk you over here. And there's a row of transoms at the top. And that faces straight north. There'll be a skylight in the shed roof dormer too, just like these over here. The front porch is all weathered in. So it's actually where I store a lot of things. I got all my firefighting gear and everything underneath here right now when I change trucks. So this is a lodgepole, but I didn't take the bark off of these. These are just treated with oil, and then the Ponderosa 1x10s. It's all rough sawn. And this beam here, the main beam is that's about a 15 foot Ponderosa. That was a job getting that thing down off the mountain. I remember the day I got it because I got a bunch of big ones. I was wading through snow up to my knees. The center post, I just put that in here because I'm going to use that to put the to support the railings. So, okay, time to get back to the turkey. Okay, I just put another bucket of wood on here, mostly on the deep pit, but a couple more sticks after rearranging the coals in the shallow pit. The skillet's going to be going on there in a few minutes to get warmed up, top and bottom, because we're going to be putting some muffins in there. They might get done sooner than the turkey, but like I said, I want to get it done this afternoon before that big storm kicks in here. Okay, I got the base of the skillet in there, and I've got that round grit in there too. So just dumped a little water in there, cleaned it out, had a little ash in it from the other day, and I'm going to put the lid on it here in a minute, and I'm going to put a little tester in there. I'm going to put a couple leaves on top of that, because 450 degrees those leaves light fire. So if they're not lit, I'll know it's not getting too hot, but if it's hotter, I'll just keep waiting until it gets 400 or below, because that's a good temperature to cook the muffins in. And I'm going to use 2 little blocks of wood as spacers on top of the grid so that the sheet that the muffins are in doesn't come into direct contact with that metal. These are the 2 spacers I was talking about. They're 1-inch just little strips, but they're both the same thickness, and I'm going to lay them on top of the little circular grate that's in the skillet, and I'll put the muffin pan on top of it. So I guess on the directions of that muffin mix it says preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Well, I guess that's kind of what I've done here. Okay, that little bit of water I dropped in there is all gone, so I know it's over 200. So now I'm going to put a couple leaves in there and see if they ignite. Then I'll know it's too hot. If they're not igniting, but they're just a little brownish, then I'm figuring that's around 400. Okay, the wood I like to keep around now, got a bucket full of just pieces of 1x. This is all stuff left over from me sheathing the roof on the cabin. Just cut-offs, but it's perfect. I can slide it underneath the grate, and if I got to get the fire going more, I can always stick a couple more in them, and they catch quick, and they make some fast heat.